It's an attack on the rights that were promised to us under Te Tiriti.
There's no question about this. This is an attempt to abolish the Treaty of Waitangi.
The legal document from the Ministry of Justice, leaked to One News, warns the government's proposed principle.
So again, what I want to show you, we showed you this last year, and I've got some clips of the last year stuff we showed you, is this government is becoming like part of their, what's the word? Part of their operating core is to ignore official advice.
Principles are at odds with both the spirit and text of the treaty. One example is the Coalition's version of Article 2, which says the government will honour all New Zealanders in the chieftainship of their land and property. But the leaked document says that was an exclusive agreement between the Crown and Māori.
Which is why I brought that up with Deb, right? So the contract that is the treaty is between the Crown and Māori. One of the things Seymour was trying to do is make it between the Crown and all New Zealanders. I know this is oversimplifying it, but I kind of feel it's a little bit like I've got a mortgage for my house, right? And that's a mortgage between my house and me. But my neighbour comes in and says, well, I'd like that document to actually, I'd like to be included on your document, because if you do something to your house, that affects me as the neighbour to your house. So I think that I should be able to be involved in your mortgage contract with your bank, because what happens with your house affects me. It's not how contracts work. Whether it's right, wrong, whether it's good, bad. And I was thinking about, here's a story. And I was going to say this to Deb, but I don't want to hold it for too long. I'll tell you a story. I remember in the early 1990s, late 1980s, one of my friends across the road had a Commodore 64, one of the early at-home computers. His dad, and I can remember the story because they talked about it in our teens, his dad had an insurance policy that insured replacement on any computer gear, because it was a very early stage of computers. And so any computer that got stolen or burnt or whatever got complete replacement. Now, 15 years later, they had a computer get stolen that was 10 years old, but they had the same agreement that they'd signed on to 15 years before. Now, obviously, 15 years later, so let's say this is the year 2000, we all knew, as soon as you drive a computer off the forecourt, it drops by half price. We're not going to get you a replacement. We'll give you market value. But because he had an old contract with his insurance company, he hadn't changed it. They had to replace it in its entirety. So even though his contract wasn't fit to purpose for the year 2000, because he'd signed it in 1988 and they'd never changed it, they had to go by the 1988 contract. If you sign a contract and something in society or something in the area changes and it doesn't make that contract as good for one party, i.e. the insurance company, as before, you don't just change it on a whim. And that's what he's trying to do. That's what Seymour's trying to do. He's trying to renegotiate the contract by telling one party within the contract, yeah, we're not going to do it that way anymore.
The treaty was a document that was signed throughout the country in 1840 between representatives of the Crown and rangatira.
To misinterpret deliberately and make it to cover everyone.